Okay.
It says we should be live.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to turn on my phone.
I'm gonna make sure. I need to turn the. Hang on. I need to turn the ringer off.
There.
On my
Oh, I just
phone.
got notified. Look at you.
Oh, that's good. Notifications going out is always a plus.
I know, but I mean, it's rare, right?
Lately, it's very rare, and I've been really aggravated that I don't get notifications.
Oop, wait. I got to turn down sound.
You got to turn down all the way.
Yeah, I
Mute it.
did. There.
Okay, I want to make sure that Nightbot is around.
Hi, everyone. If anyone's watching.
Not yet. Eventually
I know.
somebody will.
I don't see anyone.
That's okay.
Well, maybe they'll watch it from the beginning and, they'll hear me say hi, everyone.
It's possible.
We're a
It's
little late
possible.
because we were busy chatting. And
We're only 1 minute late, but I hate being late because we were busy chatting. Okay, so I watched The Social Dilemma the other day, and that's why I have a picture of it up here. It's on Netflix, so anybody that has Netflix can watch it.
it is very interesting.
Yeah, so I really didn't know what to expect out of it, and I actually didn't think it was going to be as interesting as it was. So the premise of this is that you have creators or co-creators of things like Facebook and Instagram, like social media accounts, right? Twitter, that kind of stuff. So some of the software engineers, designers, their whole purpose in this, I guess it's a documentary. I'm guessing that's what they have it filed under.
I would say so, yes.
They basically are telling you the behind the scenes of how these things work. So, for instance, the co-creator of the like button on Facebook, he talks about what their intention was with the like button, and then what the actual reality outcome has been of that. So, their intention of creating the like button was so that to help you put smiles on people's faces, because if they post a picture or they say, hey, happy birthday, and then you hit the like button, and make them smile, make them feel better. Unfortunately, the reality of the outcome of that has been particularly young people constantly going, well, how come so-and-so hasn't liked my thing yet? And, so they talk about a variety of things. They talk about, and I think they pretty much mentioned everything, like Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter.
They really did.
I don't know that they really mentioned TikTok, but of course that would fall in because TikTok kind of does the same thing. It's all about you share something and you hope that people like it and return that back to you, right? And it's supposed to make you feel good. It's really interesting because I have seen other documentaries about things like Google and other big tech companies where the executives on those companies talk about how they do not allow their kids to use that technology at a young age. Because
up to, you be specific, young age, they're talking 15, 16-year-olds.
well,
They
right,
don't
but they
let
don't
them.
let them start young either at the
Right.
like 8, 9, and 10 age either, right?
Right.
So these guys talk about the same thing, and most of them looked, maybe not what young people would consider young, but they didn't look very old, and they were certainly younger than us, right?
That is the first thing I noticed. They all maybe looked 30,
Right.
and I'm being generous with the
May,
30.
maybe maybe there was one in there that looked maybe mid-30s, but like definitely
The like button co-creator, I would say, was the oldest.
that was definitely the tap out age. But what's interesting is that the people who create these things typically don't let their kids use it, which has always been an interesting thing to me. And there's good reason for that, right? Because we see what is happening to kids. So, they go into talking about how social media is affecting particularly the younger generation. So, people in my generation, people in your generation, we didn't grow up with these electronics in our hands. We
Right.
didn't have the internet and all this immediate access to everything. I mean, every single one of us, we can pick up our phone, we can dial into Netflix and watch whatever movie we want. We can pull into Hulu and watch whatever we want. We can, the most of us can pull up even whatever TV service we have on our phone and watch it wherever we are.
Right.
And we have our shows on demand now. We don't even have to watch it live. I mean, we used to have to wait for Saturday morning for the cartoons to come on Saturday morning, and then like if you missed it, you missed it. If
They
you
even
wanted to,
mentioned. Did you notice that they even mentioned Saturday morning
right,
cartoons?
because that was like a huge thing to us when we were young. But think about this too. Remember, like the Charlie Brown holiday specials. If you missed it, or the once a year they would play The Wizard of
Mm-hmm.
Oz, if you missed it, you had to wait a whole other year before that came around.
Right.
You couldn't go to the store and buy the movie. You couldn't hop onto Amazon, video and rent the movie or buy it to stream it. None of that.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have any of that. So now these kids are growing up with this instant gratification on their phones about everything. And then the creators of these things, I guess there's no, there's not 100% way that they could foresee all the negative effects that it could have, right?
Right.
One of the biggest things, I think, particularly that started out with Facebook, was this whole bullying thing and the suicide rates. And they talk about this in this documentary, how the suicide rates in young children are gone way up. And something, something's causing that. So as a society, we should be going, okay, what's causing this? What can we do to fix it?
Mm-hmm.
So when you have that, what are you going to do? Okay, so then you're going to limit their social media. You're going to cut them off. They've already been on social media for the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
You can do just shut them off. I mean, I have a hard enough time when my daughter gets in trouble. That's the first thing I take away is her phone, because it's like
Right.
their lifeline. One of the things that they also mentioned that I've tried to get my daughter to do, and I know a lot of people these days in particular, I find are, if you're not completely OCD about everything, you certainly have something that you're OCD about. A lot of people, and particularly young people, and my daughter is one of them, are very OCD about their notifications. Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the, I don't remember which guy, but one of the guys was talking about the notifications, and how he was really addicted to email. And that was really the first, I think, entrance to our addiction into this stuff was really email. Because it was the first instant messaging. We didn't have it on all these other devices. You were at your computer, and I mean, instant messenger, Yahoo, or, AOL Messenger was pretty much what we had back in the dial-up days. But you had to be at your computer. We didn't have phones that were connected to the internet. We didn't have game systems that were connected to the internet where we could access all that. So you were either sitting at your computer, but while you were, sitting at the stoplight down the road, you couldn't sit there and look at your phone and have access to that. Where now you can. And so he actually said he was so addicted to his email. So one of the things that he did, the first thing he did was he turned off all the notifications for everything. And then he started, they talk about deleting your social media. I have tried, for instance, limiting my daughter's social media. My daughter, she's on Facebook. That was the first thing she got on. Okay. And she was younger than she was supposed to be to get on Facebook. So, we put, a different age in there to get her on there. And really the reason why I let her get on Facebook was not because of her friends or anything. It was because of family members. She could talk to other family members and maybe we don't get to see very much. And I mean, one of the biggest reasons why I got on Facebook was so that when I share pictures of the kids and stuff, not only do like my parents get to see it, but so do my cousins and everybody else that I don't hardly ever see, or maybe I haven't seen since we were kids, but they can see what's going on with my family.
Me too.
Now, my daughter moved away from using Facebook because all the adults are on Facebook. And I find this seems to be what's going on, right? Then they move to something else. And then the adults get on that social media. So then the kids move to a different one.
Yep. I got that story too.
Snapchat, TikTok. I guess we haven't infiltrated those enough yet, but
yeah.
I kid you not. Kaz did a video the other day that I watched that it's kind of a compilation of TikToks. And I'm not, my kids show me things on TikToks, but I don't know. I just kind of find most of them stupid. But anyway, I watched her whole video and it was kind of funny. Some of it was kind of funny and she did a couple of things and those were entertaining. And I thought, oh, maybe my daughter will like this because she's on TikTok all the time. And I said, hey, Kaz did this video. You want to watch it? And so she's like, okay. And so she's like, well, or is it anybody popular? I said, I have no idea. I'm not on TikTok. How would I know?
Yeah.
So I start showing it to her and she goes, oh yeah, that's the older side of TikTok.
Oh.
I'm like, what do you mean that's the older side of TikTok? Well, Mom, there's like the side where the kids are. Then there's the side where the older people are.
God.
Okay. So, back when it was Musical.ly, I tried to get her off of that. I didn't like the suggestive songs that they use, and the whole dances in their video and themselves. And yeah, so that was an issue, but all our friends are on there and now they can use it. They, use it to communicate. And so whoever is coming up with these programs, they're very smart in that they bring it to the kids in one way. They sell it to the kids. And then the parents start going, what? And then they turn it into something else. So, for instance, I never did like Snapchat. Now, the kids love Snapchat because they put all these filters on and everything.
Yes.
Okay, here's an interesting thing. So, if you are the person that invented the idea of putting these filters on so you could take these goofy pictures. Now, don't get me wrong. We have some really cool goofy pictures of my dad that my daughter takes of him with her Snapchat, okay? That we would never get if it wasn't my daughter doing this.
Right.
But then people take it to the next extreme. So you have people who are getting plastic surgery to look like those filters.
Oh, geez. Seriously?
Okay? Yep. So there's a positive in that people are having fun, doing silly things. But then there's the negative of that. And at some point, if that negative gets to a certain point, you're going to have to do something about it because it's too much negative. Like right now, I think the whole bullying that leads to this larger number of younger kids committing suicide. I mean, okay, when we grew up, we had bullying and everybody just went out at recess or after school and got on the playground and pummeled each other, and that was the end of it, right? Somebody won, somebody lost, that was the end of it, right?
Yeah.
But now, I mean, I've watched several documentaries, actually, unfortunately, true crime documentaries about kids and how they ended up committing suicide because of social media.
Mm-hmm.
Because when they get bullied on social media, okay, think about this. You create your name on social media,
Mm-hmm.
and then, all your high school friends or whatever grade you're in, they all hook up to you, right? One person can, take, let's think about this, right? Okay, we used to do silly things at slumber parties, right? We actually had this one girl. She was always the first girl to fall asleep, and this was when I was in grade school. Okay, she was always the first one to fall asleep. And one night we got the bright idea. The person that lived behind us, they have a really huge backyard, so they had a very large above ground pool.
Mm-hmm.
And we got this wild idea that we were going to try to make her pee her pants. But then if that didn't work, we were going to throw her in the swimming pool, right? Well, you put the person's hand in,
I know what you're
Hova.
talking
Okay,
about.
yeah.
You think we didn't do that?
Right. So, we couldn't get her to pee her pants, so we decided we were going to carry her out to the pool. So a whole group of us, grabbed parts of her and we took her out and threw her in the pool. But here's the difference, right? We didn't have social media or video cameras that we could, back then you had the video cameras held VHS tapes. So they were like enormous and you had to strap them onto your shoulder and, kids were not allowed to touch that stuff. So,
no.
that was never recorded or anything. But think about, you do any of those embarrassing things now, another thing we would do, anybody that fell asleep, you take everybody's bras and underwear that they were going to put on the next day and you soak it and throw it in the freezer.
Mm-hmm.
And then when, the mom gets up the next morning and is making breakfast, everybody's trying to figure out how they're going to get their stuff through the dryer so they can put it on to change their clothes, right?
Right.
That was okay in that, everybody went through that, and it wasn't strangers across the world couldn't see that, right? It was just your little group of people. And
and they weren't
now,
commenting on it.
well, right. But see, now you piss off somebody, and let's say you've got, 1,500 followers on Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is. And all of a sudden you're at a slumber party and unfortunately you're the first one that falls asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody's going to do something to you and this other person's going to stand there with their phone and they're going to video it and then they're going to post it all over the world, right?
Right.
You can't get away from that. Once it's out there, you can't get away from it. So you can't just shut off social media and that teenager be okay, right?
Right.
People you walk to school the next day and everybody in school has already seen it.
Of course.
Right. Even about, remember, okay, in high school, you'd have people that would, spread rumors about how so-and-so is a slut and so-and-so sleeps around, and right. But it could only get as far as people's talking to each other, whoever you were around. But now you can spread that all over the world.
Yeah.
and it's there forever.
Yeah.
So you can't get rid of it. So unfortunately, these kids now are dealing with a whole lot more. So they talk about that. And then they talk about, this was interesting too. Okay, so we know that there's problems with YouTube, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the whole bullying, trolling, that also to me falls into that category. So YouTube has a horrendous issue. And the problem that I find YouTube has with this is they have policies in place that are supposed to protect people, okay? But they don't enforce them. I have seen more than one creator that I follow get swatted, get outrageously trolled, get their life threatened. There's actually been a couple of gamers that got swatted where they were actually killed by the SWAT team. SWAT team, is basing what they're doing on information from a call. They don't know what's going on in there. And if you say, if you call the police and say, oh my goodness, this so-and-so did this, and oh my gosh, and
Right.
they're going to go in there thinking that there's this violent, horrible person in there. And then, the person is stunned and doesn't know. And quite honestly, and they like to do it when it's live, when the person is live streaming. So I don't know if that's the shock and awe thing, if they really want people to get killed or what. And the one guy that actually was prosecuted and thrown in jail for that because he was continually swatting people, and eventually somebody was killed because of it. He was doing it for the sheer power. Once he realized that he could call 911 and basically control what happened, right?
Right.
He got like on this power trip, which I mean, I guess like mass murderers kind of do the same thing. They can't do it from the comfort of their own home with a phone, right?
Right.
But YouTube doesn't enforce their policies, so that certainly is a problem. And I think that one of those things that we need to do is, unfortunately, I know we have no regulation right now on the internet for the most part, but I think we do need some. I think we need to protect people from being able to be such extreme victims, because everywhere in society right now we see that people are not going to just abide by the law and do the right thing because they should. They just don't. How many people do you see speeding on the way to work every day? If people were just going to abide by the law because they're supposed to, they wouldn't be doing that, right?
Right.
So as much as I do think there needs to be a bit of freedom on the internet, I do think that if we can't prevent the thing from happening, once the thing happens, there needs to be laws in place for punishing people who are doing these completely nefarious things, right?
Yes.
And the problem I see with YouTube is like, okay, so you have Facebook, has been well known and well documented for young people committing suicide because of things that happen on it. But then you have YouTube, it's adults. It's adults having this issue, right? Grown people that are over the hill, being threatened, being, made fun of. And one of the things I've never understood about YouTube, right? So on Facebook, if you encounter somebody that you don't want to ever see again, you can block them.
Right.
They can't see your stuff. They can't communicate with you anymore. There's like a big brick wall there.
Right.
So if you're a creator on YouTube, you can't block somebody. I mean, you can block the person in so much as they can't comment, they can't message you, and they can't comment in your live chat. But what they can do is watch your stuff, right? And most YouTubers have all their social media and their email, right, sitting out there on their About tab so that you can contact them if you want to, make a comment, make a suggestion, whatever. So even though that person might be able to block them if they bother them on social media, once you get to the email part, right?
Yeah.
You can just for an infinitum make email addresses, right, and keep bothering people. So, that's an issue. I don't think it should take years and years of being bullied, threatened, to gather enough evidence and information to have the authorities do something about it. I don't think it should take somebody being seriously injured or dying before something is done about it. And I mean, obviously there's already people that died from being swatted, but it shouldn't take that. It shouldn't take a tragedy for something to be done. So there's a couple of things that social media they want to police themselves, but obviously they're not doing a very good job. So for instance, YouTube could do several things. First of all, they could allow you to block somebody. When you block somebody, they can't see your stuff. They can't see your comments. They can't watch your live videos. They can't watch your uploaded videos. They shouldn't be able to do any of that stuff, right?
Right.
I also, there's a creator that I've heard on numerous occasions talk about like authentication for your YouTube account. And I completely agree with this. I know that people want to be able to have multiple channels, right? Because one of the things that if you do any research on creating a YouTube channel that you want to do is most people want to stay focused on this kind of topic. And if they decide they want to branch out, they make another channel. But there's nothing wrong with having a main account that you have to have some sort of verification, whether it be, name, address, phone number, whatever. And that would be information only YouTube would have access to, right? But that would mean then if you had, and you could have sub accounts, so you'd be able to have multiple channels or whatever it was you wanted to do. But that would mean that anything you do on any of those names, if Joe Blow over here was threatened by you and contacted YouTube, snapshotted whatever and said, hey, Joe Blow 54321 just said this about, just threatened to kill me and blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube could look up that name and go, oh, we know who that belongs to and we can contact them, or we can contact the authorities, right, and let them handle it and give them the information.
Right.
Right now, that doesn't happen. Right now, actually, when everybody creates their YouTube name, technically you have a channel.
Mm-hmm.
And until you actually upload something on there, somebody can duplicate and farce your name. So let's say your name is M&M Mama, right? You haven't uploaded anything to your channel.
No.
And somebody decides that they hate your guts and they're going to go cause trouble for you, right? And they know that you go to this channel and this channel and this channel, right? And they're going to go make you look like a butthole, right? A butthole. Saying all kinds of stuff that maybe isn't like you, but you know what I mean?
Well, how
They
can
shouldn't
do
be
that?
able to do that. If you make a name, it should be unique.
Yeah, I thought it had to be unique.
No, until you upload a video or anything onto your channel,
Yeah.
anybody can duplicate your name. Exactly.
Jeez.
Right. That's why certain creators that I know suggest to their people all the time to upload like a 3-second TikTok or anything up to your, up to your channel. It doesn't have to be public. It can be private, but it keeps somebody from being able to copy your name exactly on YouTube. It's ridiculous.
That makes no sense at all.
Right? Right? Now, when you think about that, okay, so there is like 1 billion people on YouTube. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There is certainly a way to have everybody have a unique name so that people can't duplicate it. Right? I play a very large game. Tens of millions of people. Okay. They actually have very limited number of characters. I think it's actually too small, and it amazes me that we haven't already run out of names to be able to use, other than the fact that they purge old names and they let them get reused after a few years, I think. But nobody can have the exact same name. Your email, nobody can have exactly the same email. Right? Your telephone number, nobody has exactly the same telephone number.
Right.
So why can't YouTube make sure that everybody has a unique user ID? I don't understand that either. But I do think that authenticating basically your name by some sort of backup that you're a real person, right?
And not
Here's my,
a bot.
I mean, here's my social security number, here's my phone number, address, whatever it is that they need. Now, here's a picture of my driver's license, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason why they couldn't require that. You know why they don't do it? Because the more people that watch ads, the more money they make.
Right.
And if they allow people to block and everything else, then that's ad money that they're losing. It all comes down, to money.
And that was a whole part of that social dilemma.
Right. So another thing that they touched on was the political divisiveness, right, that this causes. So there's several things that factor into this. One of the very interesting things that they did, they had like a well, it kind of reminded me like of a Starship Enterprise control panel.
It did.
Just maybe a newer version,
Yeah.
of the old version, right?
Right.
Where they had 3 of the same guy. Mind you, 3 of the same guy standing around this panel. And they were following, this one guy. And what had happened was his screen had gotten broken on his phone. And his mom had told him that she would buy him a new screen if he could stay off of his phone for 1 week. She was tired of her kids being completely addicted to their phones. So he plugs it in to charge it on the counter in the kitchen. And they show like day 1. And these 3 guys standing around this panel, they're going, okay, let's send a notification from so-and-so, did this, and so-and-so did that. Kind of like, your Facebook notifications or, Instagram notifications. And on day 3, he still hasn't touched that phone, right? Because he needs to get a new screen for his phone. And on day 3, these 3 guys at this panel decide, well, we really need to get him back to this phone. Now, why is it that they really need to get him back to that phone? Money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Money.
Right.
So they say, Okay, this didn't cause him to get back on the phone, and this didn't cause him to get back on the phone, but we're going to say that so and so that we know he likes is in a relationship with somebody else, and that notification is going to pop up on his phone. And what happens? That notification pops up on his phone, he sees it, and that's the end of him not using that phone. Basically, you get the idea that he stayed up all night using his phone because the next day he can hardly get up to go to school. Now, this is also a good example of how the divisiveness that they were talking about, how it happens. So they keep all this information on you. They know everything that you've looked at, every picture you've taken and uploaded, every like you've done, every comment you've made. Like, they keep track, as in the social media that you're using. Their system keeps track. And just as in YouTube has an algorithm that is supposed to push stuff to you, right, that they think you're going to like, social media does the same thing, but they use your information against you. Why do they do this? Money. The longer they keep you on that platform, whether it be YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, the more ads you see. The more ads you see, the more money they get in their pocket, right? So it's really funny. One of the examples that they used was, for instance, Facebook. You and basically a twin of you, right? Even if you're liking the same things, even if you're commenting on the same post, even if you're uploading similar, images and stuff, your Facebook feeds will never be the same. They're feeding you what they feel entices you. Like, this is what makes me so mad about Facebook, right? I have put people to the forefront where I always want to see their posts, right? Like my sister, my mom, my kids, my husband. It's ridiculous. I rarely ever see some of their posts, right? Why is that? It's because they're controlling what you see, right? Because they know that if you want to see those posts, you're going to keep going until you find those posts. Well, the more you scroll on Facebook, the more ads you're looking at, right? And even if you don't buy anything, and that's just it, because, there's statistics behind how many people it takes to look at an ad before somebody clicks the buy button, right?
Right.
So one of the things that they suggested is completely deleting your social media altogether, which obviously people are not going to do. But you don't want to give them their funding from it, right? Don't watch the ad. Don't scroll long enough to, hit the ad. YouTube, actually, the one guy who wrote that book, there was a book he wrote about kind of fighting back against this in a very passive way, I suppose. He said the way you fight back against YouTube is never click on a recommended video. Never, ever, never click on a recommended video. Always search the video you're looking for and go that route. But yet the algorithm that as a creator you're trying to get into is that recommended, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's how people discover you. If you're not put in front of their face, they're never going to see you because, how do they know what your YouTube name is if they've never come across you? And one of the interesting things they talked about was the 2016 elections, right? So they were talking about whether or not, the election was hacked and all that stuff, and they said no, they didn't think that, but as knowing the behind the scenes with the social media, what happened, right? What they think happened is that Russia took advantage, and other countries, not just Russia, but other countries took advantage of the fact that they knew the effects that social media has on Americans, right? And they started trying to polarize each side. What better way to have chaos than have, two sides, since there's really two big parties in politics, hate each other to the point that you can't even have a discussion with each other. Like, oh my God, there were people absolutely unfriending people because they were going to vote for the opposite candidate. I don't know that that's, I don't even know that that's ever happened before social media, right? I've never known of anybody going, you know what? We are done being friends after our 15-year friendship because, you're not voting for the same person I have. That conversation probably never came up. But now you can see somebody post a meme on Facebook and you're like, yeah, no way. I'm unfriending you because you're an idiot.
Right.
But yet for the past 15 years you've been friends with them, you didn't figure out they were an idiot. But this one picture that maybe they were just posting it to have fun. So I actually have on Facebook, I have several very, very liberal people, much more than you.
I don't think
that
I'm that liberal.
that I know. No, you're probably more centered, but anyway, very on the left. Okay, probably as far on the left as I am on the right. Okay, but I know them in real life, and I absolutely love them as people. And I know they have valid reasons for voting and feeling the way that they do when it comes to politics. So this one person posts a lot of Trump memes, okay? And some of them I find extremely hilarious, and others, not so much. So I, being me, I laugh at the one, I do a laugh emoji, for the ones that I think are really funny, and I completely ignore the other ones. Okay, I'm not going to not be friends with her because, I knew she was this way before I was ever on Facebook with her, right? Maybe I didn't know how far to the left she leaned.
But you knew.
But I've had intelligent conversations with her. I know she's not like the spawn of Satan, right? But really, have you seen the comments people make on Facebook? People act like these other people are the spawns of Satan.
They do.
And you've been friends with them for 20 years. And then all of a sudden, one day, they post one picture. And in that one picture, they become the spawn of Satan. How does that happen? It's ridiculous. No, but you have other countries, they figure this out because, they think, oh, those hot-headed Americans, I'm sure, right? And they start feeding in these, very divisive things that may not even be true. Let's start this rumor here. Back in the day, before you had all this, starting a rumor didn't have the impact it has now.
No.
The rumor would not get, from one end of the globe to the other, but it does now.
One end of the city, maybe.
Well, right, but it wasn't going to travel from St. Louis to New York unless it somehow got on the news, right?
Right.
Okay, but that goes into the next topic that I marked down here, and that's the whole rioting and looting problem we've been having, right?
Oh.
So it has completely, the social media problem has completely played into this. Because we had, in the last election, everybody, became so polarized. Because heaven forbid that we meet somewhere in the middle and have a conversation, right? And try to work things out. That's what you're supposed to do as a human being, right? But we can't do that now that we've had social media because I like to call them keyboard warriors, right? So you're behind a keyboard and you're spewing hate at another person. But you don't see that as another person on the other side of the screen because all you see is this screen.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like house parties, right? They put it out there on social media, and then all of a sudden, a party that, when you invited people at school, it was only 25 people, but then all of a sudden you got 250 people show up to your house, and then police get called, and your house gets trashed, and your parents get called back from their trip, and you're in all kinds of deep doo-doo, right?
Right.
Well, the same thing happens when you have, people en masse, coming. Yes, normally the protesting starts out peaceful, but then there are those more violent people that end up coming out because
Right.
they just want to stir trouble. And then what happens? It turns into the mob mentality.
Right.
If people don't know what the mob mentality is, it happens all the time when groups of people commit crimes. Because in your head, it's not that bad because I'm not the only one that's doing this, right? It's ridiculous, but it is a thing. So that causes us to have the rioting and looting issue that can continue for, well, basically until the next big thing happens in social media, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the other problem that they mentioned, and that's the misinformation. And I actually was watching something else that was also talking about misinformation on the internet in general and in news and media. And one of the concerns that they have is, what happens if all the misinformation in the mind of society becomes the truth, and the truth becomes the lie, right? Then everything turns upside down and backwards. And that's not good either, right? How would young people know how to discern between the truth and a lie if it all gets turned upside down? They can't. They also talked about the pandemic, right? And how misinformation with the pandemic got spread. And you have these very polarized sides. You have you have one end where everybody thinks this is a huge conspiracy and there's no, virus going around. I actually have a friend that thinks that. At least the last time I talked to her about it, she did.
Is it the one I'm thinking you're saying there?
Yep.
Oh,
And
dear
then
God.
you have the other end that everybody wants to give up every freedom they have and go on lockdown until the whole thing disappears, which that's not realistic either because it's not going to disappear. The flu has never disappeared. We have to figure out a way to deal with it, right?
No, it's a virus. It's going to mutate is what it's going to do.
Right. That's why we have to figure out a way to deal with it, right? Whether it be being more, precautious about,
Wearing a mask.
seriously, can you imagine how much cleaner places are now? I mean, I know when you go to a restaurant now, have you ever seen the tables and stuff as clean as they are now? Absolutely not.
Well, I haven't eaten in a restaurant yet. So
Oh, well, I have.
I have not. I guess I came close to it yesterday because where I went to a
Yeah.
banquet center. But
Mhm.
no one there had masks in. Not a single person in that. There were 5 of us in that. Well, it was a seating for 360, but none of them had masks on. Not not any of them. And then I
Right.
was asking, I didn't tell you. I'm sorry. I'm off on a tangent. Never mind.
That's okay. We can
We'll
talk
talk
about it
about
after
it
this.
later.
So what was your take on this show, since I know you watched it?
Well, you know, I've learned a lot since I've met you because,
Mm-hmm.
you are Miss, um, my IT guru, I call you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I was aware, let's say, that like I noticed that once you search for something on your phone, wham, all of a sudden Amazon is popping up ads for it in your face every other day.
Yeah.
And um so I was aware that that was going on, but I don't think I was aware to what extent
Mm-hmm.
and how they are keeping track of everything. And like a week or a month later, pow, they're gonna, you were interested in this for 3 days in a row, and then you didn't do anything, and so we're gonna get you reinterested in that whole thing. I kind of look a little creepy here with this light.
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
um
My light's acting funky too. I don't know why with the
I'm
camera.
sorry, but it's got a magnifier on it so I can see better because
No,
I'm
you're fine.
it was very scary. There was a 62-year-old senator that said, "I'm kind of glad that I'm going to be dead by the time this really hits the fan because these kids don't know anything." The kids
Um,
now with their
so
likes and dislikes and
mhm.
it's peer pressure. They live on peer pressure basically. And
Don't you think that by the time they're old enough to really become aware, because let's face it, if you sit down and have a conversation with your kid about this,
mhm.
mom doesn't know what the heck she's talking about. I mean, my daughter's 15. I don't know anything. I just don't understand because I'm not a teenager right now. They didn't have this stuff back when you were a teenager. I mean,
No, we're
what bothers me, I think what bothers me the most about this is, so out there in the world,
mhm.
with all the stuff that's going on, the pandemic, the riots and the looting and the protests and all
I
the
finished.
crime and all the, oh, I like that. That looks really good. All this stuff going on,
Mhm.
and then we have politics and all this stuff. It's so easy to mass manipulate people
Right.
because they're not thinking for themselves.
Well, look at the stupid things on YouTube. I'm sorry. The
Mm-hmm.
Tide
Yeah,
tablet
yeah, yeah. We're not gonna. We're
challenge.
not gonna. Yeah, we're not gonna. Yeah, I know. And you
All of
know what
those
they're okay. So
idiots. I'm sorry. Another tangent.
well, let me tell you. Um, so I worked for a company that makes machines that are along the assembly line of
Mhm.
Tide bottles. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't really want to give too much information away,
that's
but
fine.
when that happened,
Mhm.
I knew what a massive headache that was going to be, because here's the thing, right? We're not going to hold the kids responsible for what they decided to do, right?
Right.
We're not even going to hold the first person that created a video doing that might have caused this,
Mhm.
idiocy to continue. We're going to blame the company that makes a product solely for the purpose of washing our clothes, who was designing their product in a way to make it more convenient for us, because we live in such a throwaway society.
You can't measure a cup of liquid anymore.
Right. Because we're in such a hurry and we have so little time.
Right.
But then you think about how much time we spend on social media, on our phones, watching YouTube, watching TV. I mean, like, you can't take an extra second to measure out your... Anyway, we don't hold people responsible for their own actions. We have to hold somebody else responsible because it couldn't possibly be our fault. Now, when I was in kindergarten, okay, we had an 8th grader. Okay, we actually had a bus. I went to Catholic school. We actually owned a bus, okay?
Yeah.
And which
The
is very
school
odd,
owned the
but
bus, or you
we
owned a bus?
did not for just kindergarten, the whole
The school.
kindergarten through 8th grade, right?
Okay.
We all rode on the same bus.
Right.
But that was an oddity because most Catholic schools didn't have buses,
No,
right? But we
yeah.
did. You have to understand that, a lot of the people that founded our parish, like, they all worked at Anheuser-Busch, so they,
Right.
had some
They
money.
chipped in and bought a
They
bus.
had some money. That parish had some money for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so we had a bus, and we all rode on the bus to and from school. Now, I did not live very far from school. I lived about a mile away. But I remember sitting outside of school, and we were waiting for one 8th grader to get on the bus before we could leave. And when he came out, he started talking. Everybody was asking him what in the heck, and everybody was mad because they, everybody wants to get home, get whatever their stuff done so they can ride their bikes and play with their friends, right?
Right.
And he starts talking, and he's got soap bubbles coming out of his mouth. Okay? He had a very foul mouth.
He was my kid, wasn't
and he was cussing on the bus on the way to school.
Uh-huh.
So our principal, who was a nun, decided that she was going to put a stop to that.
Yeah.
And discourage him from cussing on the way home. And filled his mouth with soap and washed his mouth out.
Mm.
And it was liquid soap, the liquid soap we had in the dispensers at school, right? Now, we didn't, they didn't go and call his parents and say, why are you saying cuss words around your kid or anything? No. The kid got punished for what the kid did.
It was
right.
Right.
Now, I don't know if it was just because I learned that at a very early age or what, but I am constantly appalled that we not only do we not hold kids responsible for their own actions these days, we don't hold adults responsible for their own actions these days. And then we wonder why social media can come in and turn everything upside down. Heck, we can't even watch the news and know that what we're getting on the news is the truth. It's all skewed. It didn't used to be that way, but it's all skewed. When you think about all the networks, they they're sliding their money into one political party or another.
Right.
They're not giving $1 million to each political party, right, and spreading it evenly, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're everybody's vested in one thing or the other.
Yeah.
And so that's, instead of being unbiased, Fox News, okay, one of their big slogans is, unbiased. Now, do I think they're unbiased? No, I don't think any of them are unbiased anymore. Used to, you wouldn't have had to say that because everybody was unbiased. Everybody was just reading, so-and-so was put in jail today because they were found guilty of blah, blah, blah. They were just reading the facts of what happened. If you wanted an editorial about anything, you read the paper. There was an editorial section in the paper, so you knew that that was not a fact being written in the editorial section of the paper, right?
Right, and anybody could write an editorial, too.
Right. Well, that's basically what we do right now on the internet, quite honestly.
Oh, yeah, kind of.
What we're doing right now.
Yeah, we're stating our opinions.
Exactly. Now, if somebody kind of misconstrues that into fact, I mean, obviously, yes, I watched the show, and the show had certain things happen in it, but when I watched it, certain things stood out to me and different things stood out to you. I mean, I did see that senator stand there and say that, but I know when I first talked to you about it, like that was a big, impactful statement to you where I was like, oh, yeah, now I remember that he said that because
of our ages, let's face it.
well, my whole thing is I have a 15-year-old daughter, right? So the thing that I am most concerned about with the internet and social media is what it's doing to, I mean, she's a girl, so her self-image, like what she's trying to live up to,
The bullying.
how important it is that she came in here the other day and she had posted something on TikTok and she's like, oh my gosh, I already have 54 likes or whatever it was. I don't remember. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, really? I'm always okay. So the last few lives I've had, we really haven't had anybody show up. I don't know if it's just bad timing or people
We're
aren't getting
boring.
notified or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. But what happens is the next morning, just out of curiosity, I'll go back and look, and then all of a sudden I've got 25 views, right? Well, somebody's
Mm-hmm.
clicking on that. And I'm like, oh, okay, And I pretty much have an average, so I know I'm doing the same thing, if I have the same average.
Right.
It doesn't make or break me. It's not going to stop me from doing this. It's not going to, make me change the way I'm doing it or anything else. But other people put so much of their self-worth and their self-esteem into their social media, or do these people like me, or how many friends do I have, and I have this many and you have that many, and
Right.
who gives a rat's butt?
Everybody that age does.
Someday my grandkids are gonna, I'll be dead in the grave, my grandkids can come to this channel and go, oh my gosh, that's my grandma acting like a fool. That's fine, I don't care.
They probably won't even have to talk at that point. They'll like do telepathy with each other.
Everybody will have a virtual reality headset that they wear all the time. We'll all be actually playing a video game instead of living in the real world.
Right.
But, the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because, I watched this and I thought, this is something that everybody needs to watch, whether you agree with it or you don't. There's something to be said when you have the creators of a platform or a program or a
Multiple
system,
platforms.
right, and they're coming together and they're saying, we need to change this. It's not that we need to get rid of social media. What we need to do is figure out a way to make it more healthy, right? I actually I saw a comment or a meme or something, and it said something about like turning off. Okay, remember how the TVs used to shut off and you got the lines and then the American flag, what was like
They
midnight or
weren't
whatever,
on 24 hours a day.
right.
Right.
10 o'clock, and then I think it was midnight, and then whatever, it got till it was
Right.
24 hours. But like that was it. You went to bed, or you went and read a book, or you did something else. You didn't stay up on YouTube all night, or looking at Facebook all night.
Mm-hmm.
So people have suggested that maybe that's what social media needs to do. Turn it off a certain amount, certain time of the day. Then, and people have to go find something else to do. I mean, do you remember back in the day when nothing was open on Sundays, right? Nothing.
Right.
only emergency stuff or necessities, right? So grocery store, gas station, you know.
But you couldn't
But
buy alcohol.
we couldn't buy any alcohol. And I mean, you could go to restaurants and eat, but really everything was shut down.
Mm-hmm.
That was supposed to be your family time, right?
Mm-hmm. Church. Go to church.
And what happens now? Even when you try to have family time, what happens? Nobody knows how to talk to each other.
Everybody has their phone on in their hand.
Right. There was something that I watched that had a whole group of people went to a restaurant, and instead of talking, you know, to each other, they're
Mm-hmm.
all on their phones, right? And it was so funny because I remember my son. He was the first one to get a phone. I mean, other than my husband and I.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I got him a phone was because, and he was young. I got him a phone when he was 9, and it was because he did so much with scouting. He was out of town. He was with people, you know, where I couldn't be with him. And he would need, you know, like they wouldn't be able to say, okay, we're going to be back at 10 o'clock. You need to pick, you know, it would
Right.
be, we need to call you. So for me, it was just easier to know that he had a phone. If something happened, he could call me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he did get a phone early. I didn't want to get them phones that early, but unfortunately necessitated. What I should have done is not had internet on them. You know, live and learn. If I had it to do over, I would not put internet on it for a very long time. But his first thing was, nobody will be using their phones at the dinner table.
After watching that, I seriously considered making that the new rule in my
Mm-hmm.
house. Honestly.
So I don't look at my phone when I'm at the dinner table. And quite honestly, when we, like, if we go out to dinner, my husband and I, we might, because we'll get into a discussion and I'll like go to look something up that I read, you know, that I want to tell him about. I find that's a little different because you're still having a conversation, right? You're
Yeah.
not like looking at your social media and posting and stuff. But you know who doesn't adhere to that rule anymore?
Your son.
Yes.
Actually, remind me to tell you who is the guiltiest recently of.
I bet it's not you.
No, it's not me. I've walked out of the house without my phone. I try not
You know,
to
it's
anymore.
funny. It's funny because my daughter is very OCD about her notifications. Okay. And I've tried, and this was one of the things they talked about in the show.
Turning
And
them
I
off.
actually, I said, okay, so you know you're OCD about the notifications. Oh, look at my lemon laying down.
Yeah, I know. He's been really
He's so
cute lately
sweet.
back there.
She's like, no, Mom, I can't do that. Right? So it's like this paranoia. If you turn it off, then you're not going to know things immediately. But then if you leave it on, you've got this incessant, goodness gracious, somebody let one rip. Whew.
Wasn't me.
No, it was one of these dogs.
I know.
Whew. Wow. If my eyes start watering, I start crying. I apologize ahead of time.
He's so funny.
I know they started eating the salmon food today, but my goodness gracious. You know, so it's like, really? Because here's what happens. Okay, so if I look at my phone right now, so like seriously, look at all these notifications I have, right?
I
You see
started
that?
turning mine off after watching that, by the way.
You know what? I didn't turn my notifications off because I don't have a problem hitting the X button and I actually like to let it get really long, and I hit the X button, right?
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with letting my emails sit in my email box and not looking at them.
No,
I mean,
that I'm
if somebody,
alright with.
I keep telling them, if somebody emails me, it's like at work, right? I don't,
Mhm.
because of how much entering I do in the system,
Mhm.
I don't, there can be hours I'm not looking at my email. I won't even see, and I don't get the notification pop up anymore. I haven't figured out why that happened, but, I tell everybody, if you really want to get a hold of me immediately,
Mhm.
Skype me, at work. Because usually I see that right away.
Yeah. Well, it blinks at you.
But I have no problem like not answering the phone, or if I'm in the middle of something, or God forbid I'm in the bathroom, or like,
Yeah, the phone does
okay.
not go into the bathroom.
Oh, I take the phone in the bathroom because I might be reading an article or something. I'm an incessant reader, and it doesn't matter if it's social media or articles or books or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I am a driver, and I've been this way since I was a kid. My mom said I used to drive her crazy. We'd be on a road trip, and we took a
Mhm.
lot of them. My grandparents had, their clubhouse that was at least an hour's drive. But I incessantly would say, okay, what'd that sign say? What'd that sign say? Before I could read.
Uh-huh.
I still to this day read every single sign that comes across my eye vision. It's
Mhm.
billboards, everything. I can't help it. It's just what I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought this was a very interesting. I actually have next time. I don't know if next time or if I'm going to make a video. I'm going to have to see. But the other thing I told you that I watched that I found very interesting, that that's a topic of complete interest. That's okay. Which one?
Max.
That's okay.
Max thinks here's a strange voice. So he's being funny.
Oh, so he's barking at me.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay, Max.
He's a good boy. So
Anyway,
what? I'm sorry. What were you saying?
so no, it's just I told you about the other thing that I watched that I don't know if I'm going to do a live or a video and talk about it. The Benford's Law thing.
Uh-huh.
Really interesting thing. But see, that's me. Something like that. I don't know. My husband's very nerdy too, but we're very nerdy in very different ways. Like, okay, for instance, he does watch a lot of history stuff. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but have you heard of that show like Drunken History?
No. Drunken history?
Yeah. So I've seen him watch it, and
Uh-huh.
I keep like walking in there to go to the bathroom, and he's got it on the TV. I'm like, what is this? I can't really get into it. There's been a couple of things they've talked about that I was interested in, but it's like some weird, I don't know. I just have to chalk it up to him. He's a different kind of geek than I
Okay.
am. I don't know what it is.
Oh, then I
But
know.
anyway, so hopefully I'll come across more interesting things like this that I can bring. I know I seem to be really kind of getting back in my groove, don't I?
What groove?
Well, my, you know,
YouTube groove?
no, just everything. Like I feel like I'm kind of getting back into the.
Well, we were all in COVID hell, let's just call it.
Yeah, and work was part of it too, quite
Yes.
honestly. So it's very difficult to get your brain straight, I guess, and get back into your normal routines.
Yeah, because, let's face it, it's been weird.
It has been very weird, and There was a okay, so I have YouTube TV, and you get to like record as many shows as you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I do a lot of true crime shows and court shows.
Mm-hmm.
I am very much interested in people and their idiosyncrasies and their ignorance, their unintelligence, their intelligence, everything, right? It
Mm-hmm.
kind of fascinates me. So I I think she X'd herself out. I really enjoy uh watching those things, and for a very large portions of this like, shutdown and lockdown, um there she comes. You kind of shut yourself off, didn't you?
Are you there?
Yeah, did you shut yourself off?
I don't know what I did. I don't know if my knuckle hit something when I
I,
was
I saw you
moving.
reaching and then you were boop gone. But
Yeah.
no, what I was saying is that, you know, I was getting even no new shows to watch during like because they weren't recording anything. They had nothing going on, right?
Right.
And so I don't know, it's just weird. It's just like I started like I kind of got with playing the game, and now I started diamond painting. It's like I think the diamond painting kind of um
Rejuvenated you.
no, I think what it did was I think it kind of reset my brain, right? Because I don't know what it is about it. It's very soothing and calming, and it kind of, I guess, the anger and anxiety or whatever it was that I don't normally have. I don't know if
Oh.
it was anxiety or, I mean, I always have anger. I'm kind of, hot-headed Italian, German, Irish mix.
Mm-hmm. That's not good.
That's a recipe for disaster, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think what happened was whatever was kind of creeping in, whether it be, I don't know if it was anxiety or just uncertainty or like lack of having any kind of control over anything. I don't know what it was, but I think the diamond painting kind of gave me a refocus, and it's calming enough that like I started doing that and watching shows. Like it was very difficult to play the game and watch shows. True crime I can't watch while I'm playing the game because I can't pay attention to both things at the same time.
Right.
When I'm diamond painting, I can. So I think that kind of got my brain kind of reset and rethinking about these things. So I'm kind of back into, I got all these things I keep coming across that I want to talk about. I don't know what's going on out there. But thank you for joining me.
Told you I got kicked out of the living room.
Well, hopefully we win. Go Cardinals. Um, but yeah, I really enjoyed this, and thank you for watching it also. Because
You
I
just
know it
wanted to
doesn't.
scare the
Well,
crap out of me, right?
no, I just okay. I
Uh-oh.
think it okay. It could scare the crap out of you, but on the other hand, I think it's information that people need to be aware of,
Right.
because I don't think that anybody who's not kind of techie geeky in this way even
Mm-hmm.
knows. Like I knew some of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you pay attention to what happens in the social media that you interact with, right, and use any kind of logic, you're going to know that there's something going on in the background there. You can't sit there and talk about, like, on my phone, I'm not even on anything, and I can start talking about, like, oh my gosh, my Jeep, I think like, we're at lunch, I don't even have my phone on anything, and I talk
Right.
about my Jeep, and I need to find some decals, or tires, or I talk to you about anything, and all of a sudden all the ads on everything I open up, it's all like Jeep stuff or marine stuff, or like,
Mm-hmm.
because it's all listening to us.
Right.
But yet, on the flip side of that, we have technology spying on us 100% of the time. And then we have people who are very upset about having an ID card to vote, right? To having to show ID to vote.
Yeah.
I saw a very speaking of that, I saw a very interesting thing last night. I'll say this one fast thing before we go. So in, oh my gosh, what country is it? I'm going to have to look it up and we're going to have to talk about it. But there is a country. It's not a huge country. But Estonia, I want to say.
Okay.
I hope that's correct. I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm not in the comment section. So they don't have any. They don't have like a driver's license and vehicle registration paperwork and all this stuff. Okay, everything they have an ID. I guess it's sort of like our social security number, but it's not. Okay, so everybody is numbered. Okay, and so you get one ID, and that one ID gives you access to all of your information. Okay. And so, like, if you're going to the doctor or whatever, you have your medical records available online. You know, like put in your card or whatever. You pull it up. You can look at all your X-rays, all your everything.
Right.
It's all on there. So you go to the doctor, and you can give them access to all that. Whatever. You want to renew your driver's license, you do it online. Like, you don't ever have to go to a government building and wait in line to do anything because it's all right there. Would you believe none of them have ever had their identity stolen or been hacked, their stuff been hacked?
Okay, that sounds almost impossible.
It's not impossible. It's very possible. Think about this, though. I thought about this after I saw that, because I can understand. Now, I'm not going to say all on here. I'll tell you later about some of it. But so the government has a lot of people that monitor their security, right?
Yeah.
The interesting thing about that is, when you think about it, if everything's in one place instead of here, like the DMV and the Social Security Administration and the IRS. Like, the guy said the average time for somebody in their country to do their taxes is 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Wow.
He said he spent 18 seconds doing his taxes last year.
Okay, that doesn't even seem possible. It takes that long to write in your
Because
name.
everything's all right there.
Oh, that's true.
Think about it. Our W-2s and stuff are accessible online. You can pull it into TurboTax or whatever you're using.
Yeah.
Okay. But think about that. If all your stuff is in one place, that's only one place to keep secure.
Instead of 3,000.
Right. You know why we don't do that?
Probably because, yeah.
Because who would need LifeLock if,
Right.
right? Come on. It's interesting. It's really interesting. But, that kind of, if that was something we were sending out there on social media to, get our government to do, certainly better than some of the divisive stuff we've got going on out there. Anyway, I thought that was interesting.
That is pretty interesting. I'd like to do that because I'd like my taxes to take 18 seconds.
Yep, me too.
I'd even go for the 3 minutes.
Yeah, me too. Because mine took me longer than 3 minutes, and that was even with pulling everything in from online.
Yeah, really.
All right, so anybody who has not already subscribed and you're watching this later, please hit the subscribe button. If you would like to see more content from me, please hit the thumbs up on your way out if you enjoyed this. And thank you for coming. Thank you for chatting with me, and thank you for watching this, even though maybe you kind of might have wished you hadn't a little bit.
What I can't wait to tell you is how my children react when I tell them about it, because that's
Right,
going to be a whole story unto itself.
right. All right, thank you, everybody. If I don't see you for the rest of the weekend, have a wonderful weekend. Happy rest of your Friday night or Saturday morning or whatever it is for you at this point. And I will catch you later. And